All right, so here we go with a little bit of a philosophy primer for EDAS 4090. We're going to go through some of the information that's in the text, and um, on Canvas you will find a short little 5-question quiz that really all that it's doing is demonstrating that you took the time to watch this video and/or look through the PowerPoint. All right. So one of the questions that students often ask is why we talk about philosophy. And some people think it's boring, but the reality is that all of our actions are somehow informed by our own personal philosophy. So if we don't articulate our philosophy fully, we can't defend or even critique our own actions. It is our philosophy that then helps us to understand um, what what it is that we're up to and about. So within the text, and for this very brief presentation, we're just going to talk about three branches of philosophy: metaphysics, axiology, and epistemology. So metaphysics is associated with Aristotle, and it's this idea that we need to be able to study and think about things beyond the physical world, notions of truth and reality, the purpose of life. And in the Enlightenment age, it was this idea that it was looking to see the true nature of things, to fully understand things. Now, axiology focuses around the notions of aesthetics and ethics. So within the notion of ethics is this idea of good and bad, right versus wrong, and these ideas being universal truths. And then within the realm of the aesthetics, it's the establishment of what it means to be beautiful, for something to have beauty, and notions of harmony as a virtue, right? So these ideas that how do we create peace and harmony, and that those things again are universal and can be studied and thought about. Epistemology is a philosophy that is around the acquisition and creation of knowledge. So, how do we come to know? What does it mean to know? Where does knowledge come from? Later studies and branches within epistemology then start to look at how certain positions in society have been privileged in defining knowledge. So these are known as positional epistemology. So feminism takes the epistemological stance that the patriarchy, the masculine perspective, has been given privilege in society, and how does that privilege bear out, and what does a feminist perspective look like? Critical theory does a similar thing with notions of class, and critical race theory does things, obviously, with notions of race. So these also fall into the epistemological realm, and are important for us to think about and understand, but not really necessarily the focus of our class or the work that we're doing here. So there's a linkage between philosophy and the classroom. So these branches of philosophy then line up with particular kind of instructional philosophies. And in the text, we break those down into two realms: teacher-centered instruction and student-centered instruction, and named 5 different types of philosophies: essentialism, perennialism as teacher-centered philosophies, and then the student-centered being progressivism, social reconstructionism, and existentialism. So here's the chart talking about the teacher-centered philosophies. Here we have so the philosophy of essentialism has these characteristics that is kind of this notion of back to basics and notion of moral character development. We saw a real resurgence of this post-Sputnik in the 50s, also a bit of a resurgence of this idea here in the 1980s, really mid-80s, height of Reagan, Bill Bennett, who's the author of the Book of Virtues. Bill Bennett was Reagan's Secretary of Education. Focuses on those traditional kinds of academic studies: math, natural sciences, history, foreign language, and literature. Right? These kind of core essentials of the academic realm. The teacher and the school's role in here is to really transmit these notions of moral values and intellectual knowledge, to create model citizens, and it really steers away from vocational education, life adjustment, that we should be teaching kids how to live life, and uh, watering down of the content. It really stays away from it. Perennialism is that there's this evergreen kind of knowledge that needs to be out there, right? So good books and time-tested ideas, humanities, um, the study of the human condition, and that truth is constant and unchanging. That is, there's one capital T truth out there, and it's forever and always. It's this kind of evergreen, perennial notion. And the school and teacher's role here is then to transmit. This is again teacher-centered, so students are recipients from the teacher. This kind of overarching general humanities-based general course of study, but the curriculum is rigorous. It's not soft on what academically what it wants students to do. It's very rigid, rigorous. So notions of role models and the use of direct instruction as a guide to what we're up to there. So student-centered philosophy. So we have progressivism. Progressivism really associated with the work of John Dewey, the turn of the last century. Although the word the phrase progressive education, progressivism, isn't always true to what Dewey envisioned. But here, the idea was that we create citizens, and we have to provide education through relevance. This kinds of students' needs, change, and scientific method were really very key in that process. This is inquiry learning, broadening the curriculum, and it saw a reduction in focus post Sputnik as we tried to get back to basics, right? So this is this idea that we need to create a space in which we cultivate individuality, and it's based around students' interests and experiences, and we engage with cooperative learning through experience and active play. So in the early childhood realm, Montessori schools align very nicely with notions of progressivism, would be considered progressive preschools. Waldorf schools is another branch of schooling that probably also tightly aligns itself with progressivism. It's this idea that we place student interest at the center of what we do, and we foster their learning via those interests, right? All right, so social reconstructivism is another student-centered philosophy, and here it's this idea that we can create a new social order through education, right? So addressing social questions to create a better society. This is social reform, preparing for a new social order, and the systems must be changed to overcome social ills. So this is again this notion that we can create a new society through education, community-based learning, and assist in creating environments for change. So asking kids to really engage in heavy questions, right? Existentialism is this all about the individual, that there's no universal inborn nature, that we are all individual in that, and we are we have free will, freely determine our own course. And as a result, we have this really wide latitude in the kinds of curriculum we engage with. There is no essential or perennial kind of curriculum, right? Those teacher-centered philosophies are completely off the board with existentialism, and that really teachers then and the school is acting as the sounding board and facilitator in students coming into their own self-actualization. So these are the ideas that focus around existentialism. Obviously, there are some authors that were very highly linked with the existential movement, and as well as other philosophers as well. So reworking the philosophy check, and here's what I'd like for you to do with that assignment is moving the due date to March 27th. I'll move the philosophy statement back as well. You'll see that reflected in Canvas. It's a brief. I want you to just 2 or 3 paragraphs to start to identify one of those 5 teaching philosophies is the one that you really identify with, and that you see yourself building around your classroom around. So you need to address what elements of that philosophy really speak to you, resonate with you, and why you find yourself aligning with that particular philosophy, and then start to identify ideas that bring that philosophy to life in your future classroom. So that's due March 27th. I'll also adjust the due date on the actual philosophy statement assignment to later in April. And then again, there will be a little 5-question quiz linked to this PowerPoint that you will need to take so that I know that you've participated in this activity. All right? Thanks.